So it looks like US Federal Trade Commission is taking the next step in trying to block the Xbox Activision acquisition. Let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about the Xbox Activision acquisition again, as it looks like FTC is trying to block this deal for good. And I say for good because I'm sure you are aware that FTC did sue that deal last year already, but that can't really stop this deal. In order to really block this deal for good in US, FTC needs federal court injunction, I think it's called, right? And that's what they are trying to get right now. So there's an interesting article on theverge.com, and as always, you will find the link in the description of this video below with more details on what's going on right now. So the article reads, FTC files to block Microsoft from buying Activision Blizzard. I would say again, the Federal Trade Commission is seeking a temporary restraining order and injunction from a US federal district court. So, like I said, they need that injunction to actually block the deal. Otherwise, even though FTC did sue them, Microsoft, can close the deal anytime soon now, right? So that's why FTC is actually acting on it right now. They are really trying to block this deal for good this time around. Whether they will succeed or not, that's another story, but I'll talk about it in a minute. So the Federal Trade Commission is asking for US courts to stop Microsoft from acquiring Activision Blizzard while the government's bigger case to block the merger plays out. The FTC originally filed a legal challenge to try and block Microsoft's proposed Activision Blizzard acquisition in December, like I said before, and now it's seeking a temporary restraining order and injunction from a US federal district court. Because, that legal challenge, as they call it, can't really stop this deal, right? So here's the quote. Both temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction are necessary because Microsoft and Activision have represented that they may consummate the proposed acquisition at any time, reads the FTC's complaint. And actually, there's been quite a lot of rumors yesterday about the fact that Microsoft is actually planning to close the deal before FTC court case and the CMA court case too. And then obviously they would have to deal with any repercussions of it, right? But looks like Microsoft is really focused on that, and they really want to close this deal no matter what, right? So that's going to be an interesting couple of next months, I guess. So the FTC filed its complaint just as Microsoft is progressing with its appeal against UK regulators' decision to block its proposed acquisition. The timing just weeks before the July 18th the deal deadline shows the FTC is concerned that Microsoft may be preparing to close its acquisition regardless of the block in UK. European regulators gave the deal the go-ahead last month, so Microsoft could technically close without the UK and without an injunction in US preventing the deal from closing. That's why FTC is so eager to get that injunction, because with that injunction, the only regulator stopping the deal from closing is UK CMA. But as we've heard over here, as I just read, Microsoft is planning to close this deal despite the CMA's block, and they will just work with them later, I guess, right? So press reports began circulating suggesting that defendants were seriously contemplating closing the proposed acquisition despite the pending administrative litigation and the CMA order, says the FTC complaint. That, mixed with an ongoing CMA appeal, could have forced the FTC to try and attempt attempt to secure an injunction. The US judge will now need to decide on issuing a temporary restraining order to restrict Microsoft from closing the deal for 2 weeks and a preliminary injunction that would prevent Microsoft from closing until the result of the FTC's legal challenge. An evidentiary hearing is scheduled for August 2nd, shortly after Microsoft appeal hearing is scheduled. So there's a lot of date going on here, because there's CMA hearing date. There's actually a couple of them. There was one yesterday actually, but that was more like a technical one. There's August 2nd for the FTC, so that was that legal challenge that they sue Microsoft like in December, but now they obviously the federal court case, that's a separate thing obviously. And there's obviously that June 11th where they've got this clause in the contract with Activision, I'm talking about Xbox and Microsoft, that they have to close this deal until that date, otherwise they will have to renegotiate everything, right? So that's why Microsoft is really pushing to close this deal no matter, because they don't want to go through the whole process with Activision again of, renegotiating the deal again, because they would probably have to go through, all kinds of legal stuff and stuff, right? So, the contract is kind of signed. All they need is just regulatory approval, I guess. So if the FTC's injunction is unsuccessful, then Microsoft is eager to fast-track the FTC case. We welcome the opportunity to present our case in federal court, says Brad Smith, Microsoft vice chair and president, in a statement to The Verge. We believe accelerating the legal process in the US will ultimately bring more choice and competition to the market. In an email to employees shared publicly, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick made a similar argument, saying that Monday's actions were a positive development in our merger progress because it accelerates the legal process. So, listen, I'm not a lawyer, right? And I get it that, there's a lot of lawyers out there commenting on stuff. I'm just commenting on what we see. I can't really predict the future, but going by what Microsoft is doing and FTC is doing, and now there's been some reports about CMA, well, not CMA really, but the appeal tribunal in UK, that they are pushing to, make a final decision on the deal as soon as possible too. So there's a lot of pressure, and it's interesting because it's a lot of pressure both from Microsoft. Obviously, they really want this deal to go through. Activision as well, but also some third-party businesses and stuff, right? A lot of analysts actually say that still UK is being perceived as this close to business kind of country, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's all in these judges' hands right now. And Brad Smith seems to be very confident that they can win with FTC in court, because, like I said, that legal challenge that they pursued in December, that was more like a internal court case, I guess, for FTC, I guess. But now with federal court involved, we will get a final decision, because if FTC won't be able to prove that that deal has to be blocked right now, Microsoft will be allowed to go ahead with it, because if they will have the federal court saying, hey, I don't see any issues with that deal. I don't see any reason to block it right now. We can, obviously, they may say, well, we still have to investigate it properly and stuff. But without this injunction, Microsoft will be able to close this deal well, really next month. And if that's the case, they will probably close this case in UK too, because like I said, they are really trying to rush things up a little bit, because that June 18th is looming on the horizon for Microsoft and Activision. And like I said, it was a lot of work for Microsoft and Activision to like create, to make that deal. And I think there is, I mean, because like in order to get to that deal, to sign this deal with Activision, of course, they had to please like a lot of, you know, kind of third parties, I guess, you know, investors and shareholders. And so that they would have to go through the whole process again. So that's extra money and wasted time, I guess, for Microsoft. So that's why they are trying to close this deal no matter what, which is interesting because from what I've heard, there is a clause, there is a paragraph in the contract with Activision that all major regulators have to agree. So I'm not really sure how they can actually close this deal without CMA approval anyway, without changing the deal. But like I said, in order to change the deal, they would have to, I guess, go through all these steps, internal steps again. So, you know, like it's so bloody complicated for me. It's just like, you know, at one time, I mean, on one hand, it's kind of cool to kind of, you know, hear all that corporate stuff, because we get to see how things work really on a like corporate level. But at the same time, like, you know, let's have that deal closed and let's just move on with some other stuff, basically, right? So anyway, guys, so that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, I will let you know if I hear more about this deal and if there's, you know, any decisions made. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.